Somebody's just turned me on to the song Quantum Factor by Planet X, and the intro sounds like this. So somebody sent me a chart for this, and actually I'm not sure who wrote this out, but he's thanking Terry Branham for his keen ears and structural observations. I'm going to show you how you can program that into OctopuSequencer. So what we have is a left foot and left hand ostinato going on, which you can see is in groups of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of like a 5-note paradiddle type thing. And then it repeats here. So we're just going to deal with this first part, which is 10 beats long. So I'm going to set the length of sequencer 1 to 10. And I've added a new feature here, which you can set to mark the grid. At the moment it's marking in groups of 4/16 notes, which is what you'll probably normally want. I'm going to set it to mark every 5/16 notes. That will help us to see where we are. So I'm going to set the bottom two lines to hi-hats, so we'll have a pedal hi-hat and an open hi-hat, and this top line I'm going to set to let's see, acoustic snare drum, and I'm going to have that twice. The top one will be an accented one, and the second line I'm going to have as a kind of ghosted one. I'm going to bring the volume of the open hi-hat down a bit, so I'm going to draw in closed hi-hat, ghosted snare, and then open hi-hat, closed hi-hat. So that's this bit there. And then accented snare, followed by open hi-hat, closed hi-hat, and then 2 ghosted snares. So that sounds like this. So that bit's just going to go around on a loop. So then the next thing we have is a hi-hat playing essentially, if this was 16th notes, then we're playing quarter notes with an 8th note accent here. So we're just looking at this, 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 and this. That's 5 quarter notes and an 8th note in the middle. I'm going to draw in the hi-hat, so a closed hi-hat. In fact, it's 42, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we need this to be 20 beats long, and we want an accented snare, and I'm going to make that an electric snare to differentiate it from this snare here, and that's going to come on the 1, 2, 3 and. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5. So I've left the marker here doing every 4/16 notes because this is in 5/4 with straight ahead 16th notes. So the combination of those two sounds like this. So that's the pattern there. Then there's the bass drum part. Now the bass drum part is not really geared up for putting into OctopuSequencer, but I'm going to show you how you can do it anyway. What we have is 6 bars of 5/4, and we're utilizing 16th notes. So with a rate of 16th notes, that means we're going to need 5 times 4 for each bar. So that's 20, 40, 60, and then another 20, 40, 60 there. Now, each sequencer only goes up to 32, well, 64. It's 1 to 32 and then 1 to 32 again. 64 notes there. So what I'm going to do is show you how you can use these two sequencers to make one long bar. So I'm going to set the length of this to 120 and the length of this to 120, and I'm going to set the displacement of sequencer 2 to 60. Now that means that this one will play these 60 notes and then it will hang around until 120 have passed, even though we can't draw anything for those. And this one is going to wait 60 notes before it plays these, and then it's going to have the 60 at the end. So basically it's going to look like one long thing that goes along here and then along here. And this is the reason that I added this marker thing. So we're in 5/4. So I want to be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where that will end. So we're going to draw in the bass drum, which is already on there. So we have a note on the 2, that's there, and then the A, which is there, and then they're all tied. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And another little tip here, since we're in bars of 5/4, I can now set this to start 20 notes later, and that will blank out those, so we can now focus on the second bar, which is going to be the same. So nothing on the 1, and then 2, E and A, and then I can set this to 40 to see where the next bar of 5/4 is going to start. So we've got 1, and then the E of 2, and then the 3A, and then that's going to be the E of the 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 E. So that's the first bar. Set this back to 0. And then for the one underneath, we have the bass drum on the 1. Set that to the bass drum 2. And then we're going to move on to the next bar. So start 20 later. And then we've got 1 E and A, 1 E and A there. And then the A of 2, 2 E and A. Then the and of 3. So 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 and then that repeats. So set this to 40. Same thing again. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 and that's it. So if I set this back to 0, you'll see basically this will play 60 notes, and then this one will take over. And then that one takes over. And then we'll get back onto this one. So that's an example of how you can utilize these sequences in a row to get longer patterns. But as I said, OctopuSequencer isn't really designed to do that kind of thing. What it's really designed for is to help you learn these patterns. So this bit up here is the bit that's going to repeat and you want to work on. So I'm going to clear these bass drum sequences, set the length back to 1. So if we're playing these, so you can work on just the left foot, left hand by itself by muting this and get comfortable with that. And then you can get comfortable with the right hand part. That's pretty easy. And then since that's all that's going on and we just had a complicated bass drum thing underneath, what I would do is set this to 4 and have a length of 4 on there and draw in a bass drum on the 1 and practice that. So we're practicing that with the right hand, and then I would also practice that with the left hand, left foot. So you can see that it resolves in a different place there because you've got a 10 against 4 here. And what I would do is work through the permutations of the different bass drums against the right hand part and against the left hand, left foot part, and then against both of them. So that bass drum against both of them sounds like this. And it's basically just playing with the right hand there, so that's easy. And then in the same way that I do in all my lessons, I would move this and start it on the E instead and get used to playing that. And again, just with the right hand, and get comfortable with that, and then just with the left hand, left foot. Get comfortable with that. And then you can do the same thing and move this bass drum onto the and then onto the A. And then you can do different groups. So let's say you want to do 2 bass drums. Now, one thing you can do here, instead of having to draw those 2 and then move them and then move them, you can just use the displacement feature. So let me demonstrate that by muting this. So that will be the first thing you practice. and then you practice it with the left hand, left foot part. And then you just change the displacement to 1, and you have this. And then you change the displacement for 2 for the next exercise, and you'd have this. And then you change it to 3. And then you change it to 4. Oh, actually that's the same as 3. So we've been through all 4 possibilities there. And you do the same with 3 notes. So that's the first one. Change this to 1. Then change that to 2. And then change it to 3. So that's a quick way of working through the different permutations of a bass drum against a pattern. So they are the exercises that I would work through in order to get comfortable playing this whole thing. And then if you like, you can program in that whole bass drum pattern like I showed you before. So that's a couple of new features on OctopuSequencer. The markers, they go from nothing at all, mark every other one, mark every third one if you want to do things in 12/8 or triplets, mark every fourth one, every fifth one, every sixth one, 7, 8. That's as far as I went, because above that is probably more useful to have 4s or 3s. So that's it. If you want to check out OctopuSequencer, it's at joecrabtree.com/software or facebook.com/OctopuSequencer.